And what's going on, Read My Lips people? We are back. So the debates are over. They've came and gone. And of course, as I usually do, I'm here to talk about them. Now, usually during the debates, or after debates rather, I'll talk about the winners and losers, and I still may do something like that. But this time around, since it's so fresh in my mind, I'm just going to talk about the debates involving Andrew Yang in general. So stick with me. So my biggest fear for this debate actually came to pass. And if you're wondering what that might be, it's Yang not getting enough airtime. I figured they'd try to do something like this. And he got half the amount of airtime as the other Democratic candidates. So really, this is just a continuation of what's been happening to Andrew Yang within the media in general. Silencing him. They really didn't give him much time to talk. They didn't really care to hear what he had to say. That's how I feel. But when he did speak, man oh man, he won the crowd over. He's so good playing to a crowd. He's so good off the cuff. That's why he's absolutely one of the best people to put on stage against Donald Trump. Because like him or not, Donald Trump knows how to play to a crowd. Donald Trump is great off the cuff, and Donald Trump is quick. And Andrew Yang is all of those. He had the crowd in his hands like putty when he did have the time to speak. I do have some clips as kind of the best of Andrew Yang for the 5th Democratic debate. We're going to take a look at that, and then we're going to come back.
I want to bring you in. Mr. Yang.
Thank you,
Mr. Yang, you've made a virtue of your outsider status. You've never served in the military or in government. What has prepared you to respond to a terrorist attack or a major disaster?
Well, first, I just want to stick up for Tom. We have a broken campaign finance system, but Tom's been spending his own money fighting climate change. And you can't knock someone for having money and spending it in the right way, in my opinion.
Thanks, Andrew.
No problem. As Commander-in-Chief, I think we need to be focused on the real threats of the 21st century. And what are those threats? Climate change, artificial intelligence, loose nuclear material, military drones, and non-state actors. And if you look up, we're in the process of potentially losing the AI arms race to China right now because they have more access to more data than we do, and their government is putting billions of dollars to work subsidizing the development of AI in a way that we are not. We are 24 years behind on technology. And I can say that with authority because we got rid of the Office of Technology Assessment in 1995. Think about that timing. I guess they thought they'd invented everything. The next Commander-in-Chief has to be focused on the true threats of tomorrow, and that's what I will bring to the table as Commander-in-Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Andrea? We now focus on an issue facing many Americans, childcare and paid family leave. Here in Georgia, the average price of infant daycare can be as much as $8,500 per child per year. That's more than in-state tuition at a 4-year public college in Georgia. Mr. Yang, what would you do as president to ease that financial burden?
There are only 2 countries in the world that don't have paid family leave for new moms, the United States of America and Papua New Guinea. That is the entire list, and we need to get off this list as soon as possible. I would pass paid family leave as one of the first things we do. I have 2 kids myself who are 4 and 7, one of whom is autistic and has special needs, and it's breaking families' backs. We need to start supporting our kids and families from the beginning, because by the time they're showing up to pre-K and kindergarten, in many cases they're already years behind. Studies have shown that 2/3 of our kids' educational outcomes are determined by what's happening to them at home. This is stress levels, number of words read to them as children, type of neighborhood, whether a parent has time to spend with them. So we need to have a freedom dividend in place from day one, $1,000 a month for every American adult, which would put, in many cases, $2,000 a month into families' pockets so that they can either pay for childcare or, if they want, stay home with the child. We should not be pushing everyone to leave the home and go to the workforce. Many parents see that trade-off and say if they leave the home and work, they're going to be spending all the money on childcare anyway. In many cases, it would be better if the parent stays home with the child.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang, if you win the 2020 election, what would you say in your first call with Russian President Vladimir Putin?
It's a fun one. Well, first I'd say, I'm sorry I beat your guy. Or not sorry.
Not sorry.
And second, I would say the days of meddling in American elections are over, and we will take any undermining of our democratic processes as an act of hostility and aggression. The American people would back me on this. We know that they've found an underbelly and they've been clawing at it, and it's made it so that we can't even trust our own democracy. The third thing I would say is that we're going to live up to our international commitments. We're going to recommit to our partnerships and alliances, including NATO. And it was James Mattis that said that the more you invest in diplomacy, the less you have to spend on ammunition. That has to be the path forward to help build an international consensus, not just against Russia, but also to build a coalition that will help us put pressure on China in terms of their treatment of their ethnic minorities and what's going on in Hong Kong. I want to propose a new world data organization, like a WTO for data, because right now, unfortunately, we're living in a world where data is the new oil and we don't have our arms around it. These are the ways that we'll actually get Russia to the table and make it so they have to join the international community and stop resisting appeals to the world order.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Rachel?
Mr. Yang, what would you do about the issue of white supremacist violence?
Well, first we have to designate white supremacist terrorism as domestic terrorism so that the Department of Justice can properly measure it. I talked to an anti-hate activist named Christian Picciolini who told me about how he was radicalized over a 10-year period. He said he was a lonely 14-year-old and that he was reached out to by a hate group, and he wound up joining it for a decade. Now he's out and he's helping convert people out of those hate groups and back into the rest of society. But what he told me was that if anyone had reached out to him when he was that hurt, broken 14-year-old boy, he would have gone with them. He said if it had been a coach, I would have gone with him. If it had been a mentor or teacher, I would have gone with them. But instead it was a hate group. So what we have to do is we have to get into the roots of our communities and create paths forward for men in particular who right now are falling through the cracks. And when you look at gun violence in this country, 96+% of the shooters we're talking about are young boys and young men. We have to, as a country, start finding ways to turn our boys into healthy, strong young men who do not hate, but instead feel like they have paths forward in today's economy.
Mr. Yang, thank you for that.
I'm here with my wife, Evelyn, tonight. We have two young boys, Christopher and Damien. How many of you all are parents like us here in the room? So if you're a parent, you've had this thought, maybe you've been afraid to express it, and it is this: our kids are not all right. They're not all right because we're leaving them a future that is far darker than the lives that we have led as their parents. We are going through the greatest economic transformation in our country's history, the fourth industrial revolution, and it is pushing more and more of our people to the side. We talk as if Donald Trump is the cause of all of our problems. He is not. He is a symptom, and we need to cure the disease. Now, my first move was not to run for president of the United States, because I am not insane. My first move was to go to D.C., talk to our leaders, and say, technology is ripping us apart, immigrants are being scapegoated, our kids are being left behind, and the American dream that my parents came here to find is dying before our eyes. And the people in Washington, D.C. had nothing for this. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to talk about an issue they don't think they have a solution for. I'm not running for president because I've fantasized about being president. I'm running for president because, like many of you here in this room tonight, I'm a parent and a patriot, and I have seen the future that we're leaving for our kids, and it is not something I'm willing to accept. We need to create a new way forward for our people. If you want to join us in rewriting the rules of the 21st century economy, go to yang2020.com and make it so that we can look our kids in the eyes and say to them, and believe it, your country loves you, your country values you, and you will be all right.
Thank you, Mr. Yang.
So, first of all, it was incredibly classy for Andrew to sort of give a kudos to Tom Steyer. It was really classy of him to do that. And part of it was showmanship, but the other part is he's just an authentic kind of guy. So even though literally they're in a competition against each other to show the American people who's the better president. This is a competition at the end of the day. I know part of it is kumbaya, but then the other part of it is you have to defeat your opponents. And Andrew Yang pointing out that Tom was, running on his own money, etc., even though, he is a billionaire and he should run on his own money, was really classy, and people like that. Big ups to Yang. One of the things he said, it was so dope, but it kind of went over their head. One of the things he said was of how they closed that office in 1995, and that I guess they thought they invented everything. I found that hilarious. It was kind of like crickets in the audience when he said that. I don't know if they were paying attention. Pay attention. But I thought that was hilarious. That was pretty good. That was gold. So he touched on something incredibly important that a lot of people can relate to. Mandatory paid family leave. There's a lot of countries that do this, and the US isn't one of them. And I always wondered why they just don't cut us, the citizens, some slack. You'd get so much more praise and so much more approval, and you'd help families out so much more if you did paid family leave mandatory. We sort of have a stigma. We sort of have this belief here in the US, work, shut up and work. Work. All right, you get 2 days off, work. And they really don't give people time to decompress. And I think paid family leave is essential. I think it would strengthen the bonds and the glue that holds a lot of families together that they need. So I love that he touched upon this. It was relatable. Now, when my man got the question about what he would say to Vladimir Putin, I mean, the comedic timing was perfect. It was spot on. When he said, first of all, I'm sorry I beat your guy. That was good. See, you need, against a Donald Trump, you need that. There's no way a Joe Biden is going to have that kind of comedic timing. His brain is melting. He's Majin Buu. He's melting. And Andrew was just spot on with it. And you knew something funny was coming. If you watch the clip, you can see the audience was sort of eager in anticipation. You can hear it come on, give it to us. We know you're about to say some funny shit. But it was real and authentic. That was pretty dope. And man, when he said first you got to designate, white supremacy and their violence as, domestic terrorism, do not be surprised if you see an increase in the black vote. I kid you not. And I hate identity politics. I don't do identity politics. I mean, unless it's really crucial, but the superficial bullshit identity politics, I don't deal with. But that rang true to a lot of people when he said that. They were finally, about fucking time. So don't be surprised if you see an uptick with Yang in the black vote just based off that. I kid you not. But that was real thoughtful of him to say. And at the same time, there was no hesitation. He came out with it quickly, and I do believe he would call it for what it is. And I do like that the crowd watching and the people there reacted to that, because that shows they're in agreement with Andrew Yang. And the story he gave about the person he met that actually joined a hate group and then later came out of it, and now he tries to get people out of hate groups. I've actually met somebody with a similar story to that. We weren't talking about anything in particular, but we happened to spark on an interest we both shared. And this was out in public, and we're having a conversation, and he revealed that to me. And he said, man, oh man, if this had been so long ago, this conversation with you would have never happened. The ideas that we just shared would have never happened, and he would have missed out on a quality conversation and somebody he can look to as an equal. And, Yang's right. If we got to reach out to people, and when people speak up, we have to listen, right? Because some people are crying for help, and a lot of times we ignore it. And I think it was 14 that Yang was talking about. So I just think as far as answering this question goes, he hit it out of the park. When Yang talked about his kids, he said he had mentioned something about if they're going to be all right. And he said, we're leaving them a future that is far darker than the ones our parents left us. And it's true. And this is kind of why the OK Boomer thing is popping right now. Because, and I don't want to generalize people, but just like how the thought is millennials are blue-haired, college kids are complaining about safe spaces and all this other stuff. Sort of the generalization about boomers is they don't understand us. And there's a ton of stereotypes about boomers. But my point is, it's not the same as when they were coming up. It's just not. That's just factually true. And things are harder for each passing generation coming up. The boomers got the money. The boomers devastated so much for the upcoming generations that the struggle for the upcoming generations is even harder. And they don't like to admit that. And again, I'm not saying all boomers, but they don't like to admit that. And Yang is essentially saying, look, we need to be making the world as best as we can for the upcoming generations. And I wish a lot of the boomers thought that way. And I wish the generation now, I'm a millennial, I wish us thought that way about the next one and so forth, because it shouldn't be well, I made it and so you can make it kind of bullshit. Like, it's insane. And Yang's right. He obviously loves his kids very much, and he wants to make this place, as safe for them as possible. So that was just a quick synopsis of, the debate and Yang and some of the things he said. I might do more breakdown videos. If you want to see me do more videos on particular topics he spoke about during the debate, let me know in the comment section below. But it was an interesting debate. Do you know who's starting to grow on me more and more? And when he came out, I definitely disliked him a lot. Cory Booker. Cory Booker, I feel, is a pretty good person too. I'm not saying I agree with all his policies, because I don't, but I think he is a genuine person as well. I think he's low-key Yang Gang, and he always performs well. He always performs well in the debates, I gotta say. And man, oh man, he cut a swath through Joe Biden. It was hilarious. Joe Biden's burn was melting, and he was having more of his gaffes, and he really hit him on the about the marijuana situation. If you are still in that bubble where you don't think legalizing marijuana is the right thing to do, you are losing. You are in the losing bubble. You're behind. You're old school, and nobody's gonna fuck with you. Period. Get over yourselves. It's over. The war on drugs is over. You locked over tons of African Americans over a bullshit drug. Tons of all ethnicities. But you need to get over it. It's done with. You've lost that war. You're showing your age. And one of the most frequent comments I get in my section, people are too old. I have people that love Bernie in my comment section, but they go, man, he's just too old. Right? And you're only showing your age more by saying the stupid stuff you said. Now, he tried to backtrack, saying, no, I'm for decriminalizing it. I think it absolutely should be decriminalized. That's not what you were saying before. And Kamala and Booker sort of, well, Kamala can't say shit. She laughed at the idea of legalizing marijuana, so she gets no pass either. But Booker should have really hammered home, like, oh, now you're for legalizing it, because you weren't before. You specifically said it. And some bullshit about, we should do more studies, and get out of here. That's an excuse. Stop it. We don't want to hear your excuses. Cut it out. And then what else happened in the debate? Tulsi and Kamala going back and forth. Listen, Kamala keeps trying to swing these haymakers, and they're not going to stick. You probably gave Tulsi another boost. Stop it. The things you're trying to argue on and the things you're trying to say and point out, nobody fucks with you. Like, so you have an issue with her going on Fox News and other right-wing programs to explain her side, that's a problem to you? You're so bipartisan, it makes you a hack. You should be able to go on any program and plead your case and can try to convert some of those people. That's why Tulsi Gabbard has the last study said a 21% of Trump voters would consider going to Tulsi Gabbard. That's why it's so high. It was more than Yang, it was more than Bernie, because she's willing to go on those programs and make her case. But you are so partisan. You will not go on any of those other places and plead your case, and it makes you look weak. You're weak sauce. You're weak. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that to you guys. I hope you enjoyed the clip. I just got to say, I'm not the one that came up with that set of clips, but I felt the need to comment on it. And I got more content coming for you soon. Do not forget, we are trying to raise $50,000 for Andrew Yang this month of November. So the last I checked, we were at $45,000, which is incredible. So I think, and it's only been 2 weeks. So I think if we keep it up, we can get Yang to 100. I kid you not. So I have his ActBlue link in the description below. Please feel free to donate. And you donating through my ActBlue link gets me a chance to interview Andrew Yang on Nerds for Yang, which is incredible. So if you want to see me interview Andrew Yang, please donate to him in that ActBlue link below. Also, if you want to support the channel, I have a Cash App, I have a PayPal, and I have a Venmo link in the description below. Please feel free to donate to Read My Lips to help my channel grow. I thank you for the math hat. You guys are incredible. So hopefully I'll be talking to you guys soon. Have a good one. Peace.
My girl was in the club, yeah, we're feeling down the beat, yeah, the music on repeat, baby. I don't care, no one like you don't need me. I know that you can feel me. We're dancing with my bling bling.